The universe is loud in a very quiet way. Are you listening? Welcome to the Cosmic Whispers podcast, where we delve into the realms of spirituality, personal growth, and the cosmic dance between the third and fifth dimensions. In a world filled with noise and distractions, we invite you to tune in to your own cosmic whispers, where we can awaken our inner wisdom and embark on unveiling the authentic self and cosmic connection. Please note that the content provided here is not intended as medical advice. It is essential to consult your healthcare professional for any medical inquiries. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 3. Today we have a special guest, Annette Dalloo of Infinite Soul Love. Annette is an Akashic Records Conduit, channel and divine connection coach. She can help you find your way to unconditional love by transcending repeating patterns and wounding in your life. She is also host of the podcast The Heart of You, which gives you the tools to move through your spiritual awakening in a way that's most aligned for you. In addition, she can help guide you through your twin flame journey. Welcome, Annette.
Hi. Hello.
Before we start, we like to pull some cards. And Annette, you have your own deck. Would you like to pull from that?
I do. Just pulled one. Okay. So this is for somebody out there right now. This is romantic connection. So that means that there's some sort of romance going on for somebody out there. And actually, it's very appropriate for what we're going to talk about today as well, because we're talking about divine connection, right? We're talking about connection within ourselves as well as with others. So, yeah, it's appropriate.
Perfect. Tubi agrees. Before we begin, would you like to maybe explain a little bit about yourself and your background, Annette?
Sure. I am primarily an Akashic record conduit. So that is essentially somebody who can read the Akashic records and guide you regarding your soul path, your life purpose, and why you have certain relationships with certain people, why you have repeating patterns and that sort of thing. And I found the Akashic records sort of over the course of time. It wasn't like I was all of a sudden reading the records out of nowhere. It took probably a good 5 years of a lot of shadow work, a lot of clearing of my own energy before I was able to read the records. But I was told by my guides early on that it would be something that I would be doing. The other aspect of this is oftentimes when we are doing something for our soul purpose, for our life purpose, that when we are teaching other people, we sometimes have to experience the antithesis of what we are teaching. So for me, my life purpose, my soul purpose is to anchor unconditional love and to actually tear down the old relationship templates and what that looks like, what relationship looks like, and allow people to forge their own path in relationship and connection. And in order for me to teach that, I had to experience codependency and the opposite of all of that. So that was a majority of my childhood, quite frankly. I was in very codependent relationships, obviously, parents, friends, all sorts of things going all the way through my childhood, my early years, and had no idea even what codependency was. I just thought that was normal. I thought that the way that everybody was operating was completely normal to me. And it wasn't until I started seeing more healthy relationships that I realized, wait a minute, there is something else out there that is different than what I'm experiencing. Over the course of time, slowly got information here and there. And then it was about 2012, 2013 was when I actually had my big spiritual awakening. It had been leading up to that, but it was just little pieces here and there. I was getting signs and small prophetic dreams and things like that. And then I met my twin flame. And in 2013, the jump start happened with my spiritual awakening. So that's where I had my first dark night of the soul. That's where, I started actually really diving into that shadow work that you really need to in order to move forward in your energy. Once I kind of got to that place of stabilizing my energy was when my spiritual gifts started to be revealed to me. And here I am, helping other people do what they need to do in order to stay on their life path and in order to achieve what they came here to achieve.
So, if people feel called to have a session with you, how can they benefit?
Yeah. So I do want to address what you said earlier, before you asked me that question, which is if somebody feels guided to me, that's great. But if somebody doesn't, that's fine too. And if you feel like you are feeling guided to have an Akashic Record session, but maybe you don't necessarily resonate with me, that's totally fine. Wait until the right person comes along, because the right person will come along. And it has nothing to do with whether or not I'm good for that person or not. It's about the energetic resonance, and if you're ready to hear the messages that would necessarily come through me versus somebody else, because we are human. So we are channeling this information. We're getting this information through our human filter. My experiences help me translate this information to the person who needs to hear it. So when my guides give me the information either through a channeled message, or sometimes I'll see like movies going on behind my eyes when I have my eyes closed, it's referencing things that I already know in my brain. So when I'm able to tap into somebody's Akashic records, I can see the relationships that they have, the current relationships they have in their life. I can see what the purpose of those relationships are, whether or not they have a soul contract or not, whether or not they have maybe just some unfinished business. So, for example, many people get married in this lifetime simply to break a marriage vow from a previous lifetime. Those are those short-lived marriages that end in divorce maybe after a year or 2 years, that kind of thing. So, we have to clear these vows
Oh,
somehow, but we do this naturally based on our soul's path, what we have basically signed up to do in any given incarnation. What the Akashic Record session does is it allows you to skip all of that. So instead of having to marry somebody and then get divorced after 2 years, you can clear that marriage vow now and save yourself the trouble.
I wish I knew that like 10 years ago. I had one of those like 2-year marriages. I mean, we were together for a long time, like 8 years, but
Sure.
and the marriage was like over
Yeah.
very quick.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
It's especially interesting that you said you were together for 8 years and then it ended quickly after the marriage, because
Mhm.
that actually solidifies that theory. I haven't looked into
Mm,
that for you yet, but, like, it actually makes sense because you were together for so long, but it was like if you had gotten married sooner, it probably would have ended sooner, right?
correct.
That being
Absolutely.
said, I always say that everything happens in the timing that it needs to. So maybe there were some lessons you needed to learn in there. And so your higher self is always going to pack in the maximum amount of learning that it can in any situation. Another thing you can do in the Akashic records is to clear any ancestral patterns that are happening. So you incarnated in a particular ancestral line for a reason, and usually it is to transmute certain energies from that ancestral line. In the Akashic records, we can look at any past traumas from your ancestors. We can look at your soul's purpose, your life's purpose. We can look at maybe even health ailments that you have in this lifetime and kind of take a look at why you have them and trace them all the way back. I had a client just today who is struggling with bulimia, and we traced it back to 3 lifetimes ago where there was a really serious trauma that she had that ended up resulting in these issues. So there are a lot of things that are tied to the things we experience in this life, and we kind of take it for granted as if it's just something that happens to us, rather than, oh, how can I look at this from the perspective of where did this come from and why is it here?
I always feel like there's a deeper meaning to, chronic health issues where you're like sick, but maybe not really sick.
Yeah.
It's always, not always, but a lot of the time it's emotionally related.
Mhm. Yeah, and a lot of times we can see if it's something from a past life. And if it is from a past life, it's usually easily cleared. And once that's cleared, once it's able to sort of become something that you're aware of, just the awareness of it can help. And then clearing the energy will help even further. And then let's say if it's something like bulimia, then it's working on the present moment and changing those habits and changing those triggers that you have within this lifetime. So when you clear the things on the back end, it actually really helps to then move forward with the work in this lifetime, because when you're carrying that baggage from a past life, it can feel like no matter what you do, nothing is going to change. And it sort of lightens that load.
That makes sense. Like, I think in our last session, I felt a little bit stuck, like in a loop, and we cleared some things so I can finally move forward and raise my frequency and live my life a little differently outside of the dark night of soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just need that extra push sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that I just, like I said, I knew for 5 years that I was going to be doing this, but I read a book and I was like, that seems scary. I don't want to do that." And so I shut the book and I like didn't revisit it for a little while, and then so it was like little bits at a time. And then once I was ready, I did a training with a woman named Tracy, who I'm going to be interviewing on my podcast soon. She did a training for how to learn how to use the Akashic records, and clearly it was at the right time, the right everything, because as soon as I finished the training, it was a week-long training. I was already in the records and I was already doing the work.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
The challenge with the Akashic records is that you have to really go to a higher vibration than our human bodies go typically. Right now, I'm actually running a soul discovery workshop that I'm doing on September 16th and 17th in Huntington Beach, California. And it's allowing you to actually try it, to like give it a shot, to try to access the records. Because when you do that, you are able to see, okay, so how hard is it? And am I getting to see a little bit, or is it a lot? You can kind of get a gauge as to how much more you need to sort of elevate your vibration and like clear before you get to be able to see the records. The workshop itself is actually about tapping into your intuition and being able to read for other people and being able to connect to your own intuition, because my biggest thing is that I don't like people to be reliant upon me for the information. Now, I am the first person to say, like you were saying, everybody needs help. Myself included. So there are times when my intuition is so foggy and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. And I have to call friends, or I have to call, my mentors and say, "Hey, like, can you check into this for me? Because I'm so foggy right now, or I'm too emotional. I can't get what my intuition is." So we all need that help. But at the same time, I like people to be able to tap into their own intuition, because I feel like you are your highest authority. So no matter what I tell you, you know what is true for you, and you know when it resonates for you. And to be able to do that for yourself is so much more powerful than having somebody tell it to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'll be doing another one in Paris soon, definitely.
I would love to participate in that because I feel like, I am always practicing. Oh, I hear Lucius.
Yeah, that's Lucius.
Lucius has a message for us.
He does.
I love how our animals are always participants in our podcast.
They are.
They're sentient beings. Yeah, as I was saying, I feel like I am on the right path in terms of trusting myself. I think trust is a huge thing about intuition and like not having the self-doubt.
Yeah.
But it takes time.
It does.
And I think doing your workshop with someone that's already done all the steps to get to that point would be extremely helpful. And I do almost feel like healers need healers.
Yeah.
I have several different healers for different things. And because I did have a very codependent life and relationships in my past. And I almost feel like with some healers, I feel that little bit of codependency starting. And I'm like, oh, I got to pull back. In order to not continue that pattern.
Right. Yeah. It's when it comes to the people that you are choosing to help you through this journey, it is very much guided to what you need at that time. So if that's the experience you needed to have, Joan, at that time to sort of be able to draw that boundary, that's exactly what needed to happen, right? And the universe is constantly testing us in that way. So they'll give us those situations again and say, okay, are you going to do the same thing again? Are you? Because if you are, I can give you the situation again if you need to learn it again.
It can show up in like the most simple situations. It's like that. Like, oh, I have that feeling of codependency in my body. Like for me, it's in my stomach.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, And I can almost hear the spirit guides laughing.
Yeah.
It's like, What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?"
Yeah. And then you also hear them cheer when you break that pattern, when you don't do it, and you're like, "Ha ha, I've seen this before. I know
Yeah,
what this is. I'm not
yeah,
gonna fall for this again."
yeah. You're like, "Nice try, guys."
It's really good. But yeah, so Joan, you had mentioned something about like trusting in your intuition, and this is part of the workshop, which is actually reading for other people. So here's the thing that is so important is that in order to test your intuition, you can't do it on yourself. You can't do it
Yeah.
alone because
Okay.
basically you're just like it's like you're in an echo chamber, you know what I mean? Like you have no idea what's your thoughts, what's your intuition, what's anything, right? When I first started reading for people, that's when I started gaining the confidence because when you read for people, then you're like they're like, "Oh my god, yes, that's true. Oh, yes, that's exactly what happened. Yes, you get that validation that, "Oh, okay, so when you get that validation, it's not just about that ego stroke of, oh, cool, I was right. It's not that. It is, oh, now I understand the quality of how the information is coming in
Mhm.
and what the difference between that and my thoughts are. And that's the key difference.
Ah, okay.
So, in the last workshop that I did here in Paris, there was a girl who came in who literally was brand new at this, had never done intuition anything. This was like she was brand new, and there was another girl who was basically really well versed in all of this. And the woman who was brand new actually effortlessly did everything because she had no preconceived notions of what she was supposed to see. And she just did what she was going to do. She said what she was going to say, and then it just flowed. We all have this ability. Every single person on this planet has this ability. It's just a matter of, are you tuned into it? Are you in your wounding? Are you in lower energies? Are you in higher energies? Are you in fear? Are you in love? Those are all the questions you need to ask yourself.
And do you believe?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about one's soul path. Like, what's the importance of us, like, knowing one's soul path?
I like to describe your soul path as like that's the book, okay? And each individual life is a chapter. So the soul path is the entire book, it's your whole story. And your current life right now is just a chapter in that entire story. So the soul path is your energetic resonance. It's the reason why you incarnated on earth to begin with. If you can imagine divine source energy as a nebulous energy somewhere, right? Everywhere. It's all of us, it's everywhere, but I'm just for the sake of demonstration, I'm just going to have you just imagine a big blob of energy and imagine that there's a little piece of that energy that sort of breaks off. Okay. So that's what an individual soul ends up being. You may break off with, one soul. You may break off with a soul family with many souls. You may have any amount of different types of experiences of breaking off from that divine source energy. We're never quite broken off from divine source energy. We're still always connected, but this is just sort of to give you the idea of what it means to have an individual soul within your body. Once that soul is incarnated on earth, it has a particular resonance like everybody else. Everybody else has a different resonance. So for me, anchoring in unconditional love and changing the relationship templates on this planet, that's part of what I came here to do. Other people have come here to be grid workers, to basically heal the earth and to heal the planet. And so maybe their job is to travel all over the place to hit as many places as they can on the planet in order to change and shift those earth grids. And those people might not even know they're doing it. They may have no clue.
Mhm.
It's like their soul is just going to work and they're just normal people running around like doing their thing, but they're doing their soul work. With that type of soul mission, you may not even need to know what your soul path is. It might be kind of cool to know, and it might
Mhm.
actually be more beneficial because if you're feeling into your intuition and you're guided to go to a certain place, then you're working with Gaia and you're working with the energy of where you need to be. That can be super helpful. Now, depending on what your soul purpose is, you can start understanding why certain things in your life don't go very well and why other things go really great, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're going against your soul path, the universe and your higher self and your whole spirit team are going to be like, nope, nope, not that way. No, 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 that way. So, they're basically like herding us like cats. They're like, okay, just, no, I'm just going to nudge you a little bit. No, no. Okay, cool. And now you're back on your path. Right. So it's not that we are being sort of controlled in any way. We still have our free will, of course. But the universe is going to show us like, hey, like, you've been down that path. You don't want to go down that path. This other path is better, and this is your sole purpose, and you signed up to do this. So, hey, this path is a little easier for you. So why don't you take this one, right? And we can choose to listen or not.
And I guess that can show up in life when you're doing a certain career or you're living in a certain place. Like I'm just thinking about some friends that say would lose jobs or their business goes down overnight or they get hit by a car. And it's
Yeah.
like they're very traumatic,
Yeah.
but it's almost like it happened because they were ignoring the other signs of following their soul path.
Right.
And the universe is like, all right, I'm just going to cut this off for you. So
Mm-hmm.
your next option is to choose what is truly aligned for you.
Right. Yeah. And your higher self has all the say in the matter as well. It's not like the universe is just going to step in and do something when your higher self is not in agreement. Your higher self or your soul, your oversoul is always keeping an eye out for where you're going in the path. Basically, it's a tandem effort between your guides, your higher self, and the universe.
Have you ever felt like you need a little grounding when the full moon hits? Perhaps you want to open your third eye a bit before meditation. Get your creative juices flowing for a project or balance and womb healing? Cosmic Mama ceremonial herbal teas for the chakras can help. Our 100% organic, sustainably sourced, and caffeine-free blends are meticulously handcrafted in small batches. Whether you're looking for an herbal infusion to complement an intentional moment or ceremony, or you just want to enjoy a soothing and delicious brew, Cosmic Mama is here for you. You can support our podcast and enjoy 15% off with code WHISPERS15 on cosmicmama.co. Indulge in the magic of Cosmic Mama ceremonial herbal teas and let their harmonizing essence guide you on your path of connection and well-being. Can soul paths change?
Can soul paths change? Yeah, of course. Yeah. I have seen in the Akashic Records several times where somebody has actually achieved their ascension process. So they've actually gone through the entire process of ascension. And so technically they don't need to incarnate on Earth again, but they come back anyway because they've chosen a new soul path.
Ah, okay.
Maybe the new soul path is to help guide others to do the same thing. Maybe it's, it just depends on what it is they want to do, but it is a choice that you make. So once you complete the ascension process, if you will, I should say like this segment of the ascension process, then you have your choice as to what you want to do when you come back. If you come back, if you want to incarnate on this planet, if you want to stay on other planets, if you want to go to other planets, like what you want to do, like it's entirely up to you at that point.
I giggled a little bit. Well, because, with my soul path, it was to connect to Mother Earth and connect to humans. And I'm always like wishing I was back on my planet.
Yes.
I'm like always wishing I was ascending, but the more resistance I have, the more I'm going to be stuck here.
Yeah.
So I was just giggling about that.
Yeah, totally.
I'm going to keep staying here until I finish my soul path. Like Groundhog Day. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just kidding.
Well, no, I felt that way. So, my twin flame and I are not in what you would call union, in the 3D. As far as the 5D, for those of you who don't know what twin flames are, that's fine. I'm not going to go into it here, but our path is to actually come together in this lifetime and actually go through our soul mission together. And he's not doing that right now. So I'm like, I swear to God, if I have to come back here again because of him, I'm going to be really mad. You know what I mean? Like, because this is supposedly this is supposed to be, I should say, my last lifetime on Earth. And then I get to, choose what I want to do. And so I'm like, man, if he's holding me back, I'm going to be really mad, but, the funny part is that it's not just him and me. It's like, we're the same soul. So I can't judge him for not doing his work and not doing what he's supposed to because, it is a part of me.
Can you go in 5D with him and have a conversation and
yeah.
be like, hey,
Yeah.
hurry up?
Yeah.
Or a little encouragement.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. So he wasn't accessible in the 5D for a long time because he was still in such lower energies. And even still
Mm.
now, like it's hard to access him sometimes. And I think it's partially because I probably tuned him out a while ago. Like I got sick of trying, so I stopped connecting. And, now I'm doing other things and helping people and stuff like that. So sometimes I forget. So yeah, I mean, you can give encouragement. A lot of the times, like his soul is like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I'm trying. We also have a shared guardian angel. So most twin flames have a shared guardian angel that comes online at a certain point. When that happens, you can ask that guardian angel or that soul guide, whatever you want to call it, to help both of you in your path. So they will help you with that. The journey that you have is not guaranteed. Like just because we sign up for something in a particular lifetime doesn't mean we're going to achieve it. That's why in the Akashic Records, I will clear soul contracts that people haven't achieved from
Mm.
lifetimes. And I do that all the time. Maybe you were trying to teach somebody forgiveness and you weren't able to do that or whatever it happens to be. So there is no guarantee, but the really beautiful part is that it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter if we achieve it in this lifetime or not. We just go into the next lifetime and we continue where we left off. We just have new body and not get so hung up on the timing of it because
Oh my
so many
God.
people get well, myself included, trust me.
Me.
Like
Right here.
here I am. I'm sitting here going,
Preach, Annette.
I'm sitting here going, all right, twin flame, come on. It's been like, so many years, like, come on. But it's like, honestly, okay, fine, cool. If we don't get together in this lifetime, that's cool. We can do it in the next or however we decide to do something, right? We get so tied into that timing bit that's what actually makes us suffer because we're like, why isn't this
Yeah.
here yet? Why isn't this here yet? And
It's the
it's,
resistance that
it
causes
is.
it to the duration to be longer.
Yeah.
Because that's a type of control. Because you're it's like you're managing the situation by time.
Yeah. Well, and every time you turn around to check to see if it's here yet, you're pausing your energy. You're not in the
Oh my
flow.
gosh, yeah.
You're not in the flow of what you're supposed to be doing. 'Cause since I do spiritual coaching as well, I was with a client recently and I was trying to explain to her like the best way possible how like her energy felt to me. And the description I had was, okay, she's in her boat and she's in the flow and she's going down her river and she doesn't feel like she's going fast enough, so she's rowing faster. And then she feels like that's not fast enough, so she's building a bigger boat while she's currently still in the boat. And by building the bigger boat, she's actually delaying herself even more. She's trying to do all of these things to control it, and in the meantime, she's tiring herself out and she's, not actually enjoying the ride. So I'm like, let that
Yeah.
all go, throw the oars away, stop building the bigger boat and just chill. Just ride the boat and let it take you where it's going to go and create that beauty where you can and take that action when you can. Enjoy the ride while you're on it because if you're not enjoying it, then you're not going to be able to achieve your life's purpose to begin with. The thing is, when you signed up for your life's purpose, it's something you knew you'd enjoy. So if you're not enjoying it, then what is going on with you? Where are you pointing your energy? What direction are you pointing it in?
It just has more healing
Yeah.
that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like it's always easier said than done. Like, oh, you just need to let go and be present, especially in this human world on earth where you're conditioned to just think about what's going to happen in the future and what goal
Mhm.
you need to hit. So
Mhm.
your default is, I got to hit this goal. Got to hit this goal.
Yeah. Right. That's the really difficult thing I find with myself as well as with others is that when you are in the present moment and there are unknowns, that is probably the most uncomfortable space that we are in. We're cool with sadness and grief and fear. We're cool with that. We're
Hmm.
cool with happiness and excitement and looking forward to something and future tripping. We're cool with both of those things. What we're not cool with is sitting and being in a space where you have no idea what's going to happen.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So,
That's
like
so
sitting
true.
in that void of, wow, okay, I'm not really feeling much of anything right now. Okay. I'm not really knowing much of anything about what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Oh my God. Okay. So I must cling on to the past or I must cling on to the future or I must, it's that swimming in that void that's so hard for most people. And trying to spend time in that void, in that space of the present moment, that practice is what gets you in the flow.
I feel like I go through phases. Like there will be moments when I am completely in flow and know how to be present. And then the past few years have been difficult. It's almost like I went back into time and went back to my old conditioning where I'm
Mm,
just like past, future, past, future.
mhm,
And it's like having to relearn again how to be present.
mhm. That happens to
Yeah.
everyone, I think. I mean, it
Yeah.
happens to me definitely. Like there are times when
Yeah.
I feel like I'm backsliding. But like
Yeah.
you're not backsliding, I can guarantee you that. It's
Mhm.
just you're looking at it from a different perspective. It's also what we were talking about earlier. It's like maybe your higher self is like, "Hey, let's test the waters. Let's see if what you do with this energy again,"
Great.
right?
Yeah.
And I can almost guarantee you that this time around though, it took you a lot shorter amount of time to get through than it did the last time.
What kind of tools do you have, like, when you feel like you're backsliding? Like,
Mm.
what do you do in those moments to try to get back into
So,
flow and being present?
yeah, first I feel it. I allow myself to feel the emotions.
I think
So,
that's important to
mhm.
allow yourself and not be condescending to yourself, like, "Why are you like, why is this happening?
Mhm.
Like, you know better." That's my self-talk actually. And just, I'm talking to myself. And just to
Yeah.
allow it to happen and be okay with it.
Yeah. That is important because we can beat ourselves up. For me, I think in the past I would have a tendency to spiral. You know, that sadness, that grief was like a warm, fuzzy blanket for me. So it was actually pretty easy for me to really dive into that and stay there. For me, it's about feeling it. I don't give it a time limit. I don't say, okay, I can feel it for an hour. It's not that. It's like I feel it for however long I need to feel it. So whether it's an hour, whether it's a day, but then I sit with it for a moment and say, okay, big picture here. What's going on? I sort of act as the observer and say, okay, what is really going on here? When was the last time I felt this way? And why is this coming up again? I may not know the answer to those questions right now, but that at least gets me going in the right direction of, okay, cool. I recognize that this is happening. I recognize this is a pattern and I recognize this is something that I've done before. And what can I do to pull myself out of it? It'll look different depending on what it is you're dealing with, right? For me, for example, for relationships, I had a tendency to be jealous a lot and not debilitating, but like if I would see something, I'd be like, something's off. That for me was my insecurity. It was my abandonment wounds. It was all of these things, right? I was able to sort of overcome that by saying, okay, where is my own personal power? Where am I
Yeah.
feeling insecure? Where am I feeling unworthy or abandoned? And so then I can
Yeah.
go within and start looking at that. So that can happen with anything you might be dealing with. It's about, definitely going within and asking yourself what it is you need at that moment.
When you give these messages and you do these clearings, I like to talk about actually the importance of the other person doing the work, 'cause I know that's also something that you strongly believe in as well.
Yeah. And that's why I said earlier, like I like to empower people to be able to do this work on their own. I know you had asked earlier, do I access my own Akashic records? And
Yeah.
the answer to that is yes, absolutely. When I first learned how to access the Akashic records, I was like, woohoo! I'm like, I get to access all kinds of things. I was like looking at all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. But it is important to be able to do the work on your own, to be able to take the tools that are given to you by whomever you're working with and use them. So for example, being able to take a look at something that you did in your past life is fun to see. Sure, of course, it's great to see, various different things you've done. But if you're only looking at it and saying, oh, cool, that was my past life, and then just moving on and not actually taking the lesson or taking what you need to learn from it and applying that to your life, it's not going to really do much. Yes, energetically, you can clear things and the energy of it will move. But it's like if you're repeating the same pattern, that energy is going to sustain itself, right?
Right.
You must actually take the time for yourself. And this is what I call real self-care. This is the self-care that really matters. I mean, getting massages and pedicures and all that stuff is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, I love it. But that's not real self-care. That's body care, that's human care, that's part of it, but real self-care is actually doing the work and looking into your inner child, looking into your heart. How long has it been since you've connected to your heart space? How long has it been since you've felt your feelings? How long has it been since you have forgiven yourself, forgiven others? What is it that you need to do to move forward past a period of grief or a period of sadness? All of those things, all of those questions. And if you don't know how to get past any of those things, that's where you need to ask for help to get the tools to do it. If a particular tool isn't working for you, there are an infinite amount of tools. Like there's so many modalities out there that I haven't even tried yet. I've tried a lot, trust me. I went through,
Yeah.
we I think we all go through the voracious consuming of information in our spiritual journeys. You went through
Oh,
that, right?
yes. Oh, yeah, in the beginning too, it becomes obsessive because
Right.
when you open your mind to this, you're like, "Holy crap, like, look at all this cool stuff I can learn," and you just wanna try everything,
Yeah.
and not everything is meant for you,
No, not at
so
all.
or
Yeah,
at least, at certain times, there's a timeline for everything, so,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
So, you might try EFT tapping and that might be really
Mhm.
good for you. I've tried it. It doesn't really do a lot for me. And I'm not sure why, but
Mm.
it doesn't. But I know it works incredibly for other people. Like I know other people who swear by it and say it's like the best thing they've ever done. That's fantastic. And that is absolutely true. So never negate something because somebody's like, oh, it didn't work for me because you never know. It could absolutely work for you. It just was not the right tool for that person. And that's part of the reason why I have my podcast as well is because not only am I helping people to understand the spiritual concepts, but also I interview other people who have skills and tools that I don't. So then other people can get introduced to the new tools and the new people. So in case they're resonant with that person, they go have fun. Go do your session with them because I feel like I didn't have support when I first was going through my spiritual awakening. Like I didn't actually know I was going through one for like 3 years.
Oh,
I
that's
just
rough.
thought I was
Yeah.
losing my mind,
Yeah. You're
Yes.
like, "Am I going crazy?" I've been there.
Yeah.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what's happening and no one is there to tell you
Mm-mm.
that you're not too sensitive, this is your superpower, you just need to learn how to manage it. You're just like, "I really feel like I'm going nutty."
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and thankfully, I mean, the universe did step in and gave me little signs of things and gave me hints and things like I didn't even know what twin flames were until 2016. So I had been in a relationship, so to speak, with my twin flame and then out of a relationship and then still connected to him for like 3 years before I even knew what a twin flame was and that I was even in a
wow.
spiritual awakening. So it was like I just thought I was losing my mind. I just thought I was like I'm like, "What kind of energy does this dude have over me?" Like, I had no
You're
idea
like,
because
"Why are we still connected?"
right, because, like, I was very typically the type of person that, like, when things didn't work out in a relationship, I was like, "Yeah, that's cool. I see it didn't work out. That's fine." Like, I would let it go. I mean, of course, I'd be sad. I wasn't like, Dark Night of the Soul sad, right?
Yeah.
Like, it
Yeah.
was just like
You weren't dwelling and,
right,
like,
right.
years later feeling super connected to this person.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't want anyone else to have to go through that. And thankfully, I don't think people do anymore because there's so much more information out there than there was back then. So if you need help, anyone out there listening, get it, please. Get it. Get it
Yes.
immediately.
There's an abundance of tools and help out
Yes.
there. You
Yes,
just gotta,
there is.
open up and explore.
Yeah. I always tell my clients who are nervous that your guides and your higher self are never going to tell you something that you're not ready to hear. I've had a lot of people who were nervous or scared going into a session, and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm afraid what I'm going to find out." And what if I find out I was some horrible person? I was like, I was a pretty horrible person. I don't know about you, but like, I've been pretty horrible people in past lives that I've seen. So, like, I've also been pretty awesome, but I've been pretty horrible too. So, I always say, like, we have been all ends of the spectrum, especially light workers who are on the planet now who are going through this process, we've all been around most likely since Earth's inception. We're talking millions, billions of years, right? So, like, it's a lot to kind of take in, which is, hey, I've actually been the person that I don't really like. I've been that person before. I've also been the person who's super judgy. I've been this person over here, like, and you have to hold that compassion because we've all been a little bit of everything.
And that's how you really learn about yourself too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be that bad person to recognize that in other people, right?
Yeah.
And then to learn to become the better person.
It's interesting because one of my lessons recently, and this is coming from being a former people pleaser, is I was told for this one particular situation in my life that I had to be okay with being the villain in someone else's story. And I was like,
Wow. Wow.
whoa. And the reason why that was so profound is because when you look at energy, just energy, not people, not personalities, but just energy, if you have a higher vibrating energy and a lower vibrating energy, the lower vibrating energy is going to look at the higher and see that as toxic because they
Mm,
can't handle it, and vice versa. So when you're on such a huge difference in spectrum of energy, you're going to look toxic to each other because you're not on the same wavelength in any way. Coming out, it's like, okay, yes, you have to make sure that you're doing the best thing that you can, that you're being heart centered, that you're operating from a place of integrity and compassion and love. And even if you are still doing that and the other person is still vilifying you, then you have to be okay with that. You have to say, okay, well, that's their lesson that they need to learn. And
mm,
I've looked at this from all angles, and I'm still willing to learn if there's something that I still need to learn. But at this moment, I'm okay with that. Right.
acceptance,
Yeah.
allowance and acceptance,
Yeah.
and then letting go. Yeah.
Right. How many times have you really tried to get somebody to really like you, even though maybe you didn't even care if they liked you, but you just like, you needed them to like you just because you didn't want somebody to hate you or not be, sending you good, loving energy or something like that. But like you really try hard to get somebody to like you. And it's like, no, you don't need to actually.
Mhm. I mean, that's almost like not needing validation too, right?
Mm,
In that sense.
yeah.
And it was meant to be like that.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And the thing is that there's always time. That's the whole thing. We talked about time earlier, but there's always time to rectify things. There's always time to move through things. And even if you say, well, we're only here on this planet for such a short time, I'm like, nope, I can tell you that you can work on this in the next lifetime. It's cool. You can do that too. We do that on a regular basis.
you got a few more lifetimes.
Exactly. Exactly.
We should just all sit back and enjoy life then. We'll
Yes.
take care of it in the next lifetime. Forget it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm done. And so can you tell us a little bit about how channeling works for you? You mentioned earlier that it's almost like seeing a movie.
Mm.
Um, like how did it when you're learning it, how did was it like a gradual flashes of a movie or was it just like you just tapped in and it was just like
Weirdly enough, no. So the movie bit, that's actually just more my clairvoyance. That's not the channeling. The channeling is literally like just me speaking. So
okay.
when my guides give me the movie, they'll show me the movie and sometimes I won't understand it. And then they're like, no, 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 we'll just take over, just channel this because it's gonna be easier. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Oh, okay.
So
Interesting.
I started channeling by automatic writing initially. And I found that to be very, I would say, I don't want to say it was clunky, but it was like it was harder for me because my brain got in the way a little bit too much with writing because it's like my hand couldn't write as fast as my brain was giving me the messages. So while I was writing, I had time for my brain to interrupt and say, I don't know if that's really right.
Mm,
So for me personally, the automatic writing wasn't as effective as me just speaking. But I will say this to everyone is that do try the automatic writing. It's what I do in my workshop as well because some people really excel at the automatic writing and that's their way of channeling.
can you use typing as a way to channel because you're able to type faster than writing?
Yeah,
I'm
I
wondering if that works
I
for
I
some
think
people.
yeah, you definitely can. I've done it before, but for me like the speaking is just so much more efficient. And that's just me. When I first started channeling, it literally just happened one day in one of my sessions. Like I didn't even expect it. I was just telling the person what I was seeing and then all of a sudden I was channeling. So it did come in like in an instant,
That's cool.
So was I ready for it? Yeah, absolutely. And did I know that was going to happen? Nope. Sure did not.
Surprise.
Yeah. So then I started actually figuring out, oh, okay, cool. So now I know what that feels like. And now I would say probably half of my sessions, or maybe like, I don't know, maybe a third of the sessions are usually channeled in some way.
Would you mind doing a short channeling session to show the listeners how it works?
I would love to.
So I'm going to give you the questions first.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. That's typically how I like it, is to have all the questions up front. And the reason for that is just because my guides will sort of show me the questions that they want to answer first, because everything is sort of interwoven. So it's nice to have everything all up front.
So the questions are there any past life influences or karmic patterns affecting my current soul path? And is there a way to better align with my soul path? As a transmuter, what does that mean? And how can I release old patterns or energies that no longer serve me and the collective in a less dramatic, painful way? How do I know if I'm transmuting for myself, for the collective, or the person next to me? What is Tupi's role in my life and the podcast, as she tends to do a panic bark whenever I hit record? How can I cultivate a stronger connection with my higher self and spirit guides to receive guidance on my journey? And last but not least, what do the guides want the listeners to hear? Join us next week for an amazing channeling session with Annette Dalloo of Infinite Soul Love. Until then, you can connect with her on her socials at Infinite Soul Love 1111 on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. You can sign up for her Soul Discovery Workshop taking place in Huntington Beach, California on September 16th through 17th on her website at infinitesoullove.com/store. See you next week. DJing has provided me with a channel for creativity as well as another form of meditation. Stay tuned for one of my cosmically curated DJ sets coming up shortly. Thank you for being a part of our community. Be sure to connect with me by hitting subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. I greatly appreciate your support and would be thrilled if you could leave a review. Your reviews help this podcast reach a wider audience and foster a stronger collective connection. You can also connect with me on Instagram and YouTube at The Cosmic Whispers Podcast. Thanks for listening. If you like what you hear and would like to check out the full set, be sure to find me, Cosmic Mama, on SoundCloud. That's soundcloud.com/Cosmic Mama.